BaT Nerds is your daily YouTube car game show where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Haggerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds. Welcome to a brand new live episode of BaT Nerds, your nerd out on the most interesting cars from all the automotive enthusiast auction sites like Cars and Bids, Bring a Trailer, PCAR Market, Haggerty Marketplace, Mercedes Market, and more. All the good ones. My name is John Pollock. I'm your host, along with my partner, Michael Deeb, in San Francisco. Maybe we can bring him up there, Mental. Look at that. What's up, partner? Michael Deeb in San Francisco. Fisting Room. What's going on?
We were having a little discussion before we went live about whether or not we're on time. And one of our new guest hosts was raising an issue about, punctuality. And I thought,
wait, you mean former guest? Oh, no, he's still,
Hey, don't ruin it. We need him. Yeah, don't
He sent us exactly 0 followers or subscribers, even though he's hoarding them all over. He has 300,000 subsubscribers. And we've gotten exactly
I actually
one
went
from
this
over
show
there.
on my podcast, so I'm just saying.
Mental has brought us more followers.
You want to know a dirty little secret? Wade is not even subscribed to the show
I
yet.
think you're right. I think he's like, I don't want to. He's like, I don't want anyone to know I'm on the show. As long as I'm just on the show, no one will ever know.
I spent the weekend going through all the followers, and I couldn't find Wade Bennett anywhere. So
sometimes you gotta. I keep my subscriptions private for certain reasons. So don't feel bad. You're in there, and so it's all good.
Yeah,
Wade Bennett from Tech Daily, guys. He's in the studio.
I give him one jab, and this is what I get.
Wade follows us on a burner account called Banana Hammock 123.
Yeah, you got me.
Well, that's going to be a rude awakening when the new laws come in and you can't have anonymity anymore.
I know,
and we're going to know, right?
All my accounts are going to be verified and going to be like, oh, it was him all along.
Damn. All right, that's all our subscribers are just one bot. Times 1,000 or something. I don't know. This is great. Mental behind the buttons. How you doing, Switcher Gary?
I'm doing good. I was just telling you guys, I've spent the day over with the Simcraft folks who are here in town at our friends at the Las Vegas Auto Gallery. And this morning got to have breakfast with, and he's on the show right now, our buddy Sahan.
Nice. Sahan was in town for a few days, hanging out, talking to our good friends at AM Surgical. We were hoping Sahan might wind up being a Vegas person.
Resident,
soon.
yeah.
Which would mean seeing him on the show regularly as well. So we might have to get a bigger desk. Okay, the Nerd Herd is already showing up in the chat. How we doing, Nerd Herd?
We are doing well.
Yeah.
We've got, of course, Buddha's here.
Sweet.
Wouldn't be a show without Chris Carbine. And I mentioned Sahan already.
Here it is.
Yeah,
all right.
What I was trying to get around to saying is no matter what time we start, whether we're on time or 30 minutes late, as soon as the show starts, the Nerd Herd is logged on. Like they're always on time, no matter what time we start. And that is a remarkable feat. So shout out to the Herd for being punctual and patient with us at all times.
So David Sullivan is watching on Instagram, and David, that's just an Insta Live. Go over to YouTube and you can actually see the show. I just have the Instagram on. It's not patched into the audio system here. You got to go to YouTube to actually see the show, and you'll be able to hear the rest of us. Hey, Randy Bloom, you too, bro. Get over there. Oh, he's already in there. He's in both.
Yeah.
All right.
And if David's having problems, have him call his son. His college-age son to tell him how to do it.
Tech support. Oh, did you hear that? Well, I don't think he heard that dig because he's only watching on Instagram.
He's just sitting there watching you talk to
He
yourself.
can only hear me. This is like, and I can only hear JP. Yeah, that's a problem. I mean, if I were you, I would definitely not just be listening to me. All right, let's get to the show. This is the show where we make predictions about cars on all the cool auction sites. We have a conversation about those cars. We make our poor predictions. We reconcile them. That's how we always start the show, by going back and seeing how wrong we were on the last episode. We do this a couple times a week, always live, somewhere in the 7:30-ish time on Sunday nights and Wednesday nights. So thanks for hanging out with us. And if you are new to the show, thanks for being part of the Nerd Herd. We love you guys. Also, big shout out to Godden Classic, Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. They support the show, so we want to support them. They are awesome people. Even if they didn't support the show, they are truly great down there. Godden Classic, they can definitely help you with repairing your car, parts, everything, finding a new classic. If you want to avoid the whole auction BS, just go to Godden Classic, talk to Steve. And then, of course, Our Smiths. They are not official yet, but that's coming. Our Smiths, if you've got your watch and you need some service, or if you're looking for a watch, talk to Our Smiths up in Idaho. You can go to their website. There's all kinds of cool stuff on the website, and they service watches from all over the world. You can send your high-end watch, and the experts at Our Smiths will get you hooked up with the best watch service, the highest caliber of service you can possibly get if you have a high-end watch that needs, some of those little gears. They got those little gears. They got the little thing that they put on their eyeball so they can see really.
Sprockets.
Yeah, sprockets. Thanks. Our Smiths. Love those guys. All right. And Anthony
Guys
might be hanging
Customs.
out. Is he? And Guys Customs bracelets.
Guys Customs. Yeah, keep going, man. Guys
Good point.
Customs.
We got Guys Customs bracelets.
The original sponsor of the show.
That's right. And I think there's going to be a Black Friday sale. I think she's going to do some cool stuff for Black Friday. She's got all kinds of sick F1 stuff. You know the guys like who's the big F1 driver?
Hamilton.
Checo Perez.
Whatever. The one that Hamilton wears these necklaces now. And she's made a bunch of necklaces that are just like his. That seems to be a big seller, and all kinds of really cool stuff. So check out Guys Custom Bracelets. That's GYX_customs on Instagram only. When you DM them, you will be getting the artist. So she will get you hooked up. All right, let's get to our poor predictions from last week. Wow. Were we wrong about some of this stuff? Let's get to it.
We were.
No?
We did good.
I don't know,
I think
man.
we did all right.
I don't know, man. What's the first car on the list?
All right, the first car on the list is Jaeger's.
Yeah, we were pretty goddamn. I mean, I won that one, but holy shit, were we off?
Simmer down, man. We were not off at all. Okay, on PCAR Market was our good friend Jaeger's car that he and his wife built from inception to full execution. They took a 1995 911 Cabriolet and turned it into a dead to rights, authentic 993 Carrera Speedster, but it's a conversion. He made the car. The factory only made one, and then the factory only converted one for Mr. Seinfeld himself. Jaeger built the third one, but this is not officially recognized as a Speedster by Porsche. This is just a car that was faithfully executed with time, energy, and passion and attention to detail. So, John knows this car really well because he's good friends with Jaeger. Jaeger, he credits with introducing him to quite a few of the friends that kind of motivated his move to Las Vegas and got him into sort of the Porsche scene outside of the Pacific Northwest. Jaeger's an all-around great guy, and this is a super car. We wondered why the current owner of the car decided to choose to try to sell this car on PCAR Market, because we unanimously agreed that this car would fail to sell at Hammer and ultimately would wind up in the chum bucket. And that is, spoiler alert, exactly what happened. So as we went around the room just a couple days ago, I asked everybody to give us two numbers. One number, what they think the Hammer would stop at, and another number to say what we thought it would wind up in the chum bucket for. So I went first saying that the bidding would stop at $130,000 and would wind up in the chum bucket for $300,000. JP was a little bit over on the Hammer at $145 and took the under on me by $1,000 on the chum bucket at $299. And then Wade was under me, under both of us by a lot. Actually, Wade went $117,000 on the Hammer and only $199,000 in the chum bucket, thinking that $200 might be enough to bring this car home. And I don't think any of us really agreed with that, except Mental, who did $125 and $197. So JP and I, our bids are pretty similar. And then Mental and Wade's bids are pretty similar. And then the result was pretty interesting. The Hammer actually was at $226,000, where it failed to sell on 28 bids. So we were right about the FTS. we were off by about $100,000 on what it would hammer out. But
yeah, that's a lot. I mean, what the hell? I won that one, but Jesus, man, it's hard to take credit for it.
And then it went, well, you're interrupting me to do so. And then we went to the chum bucket for $285,000, which is pretty close to where JP and I were at. We were really only off by about $15,000. So we kind of have an understanding of what this guy was looking for. PCAR Market, to their credit, got a lot more money, at least bid up on the car, but it failed to sell at that number. Now, I'm not into wagering accusations, but I wonder if that 226 is authentic. In any case, there it is. It's at 226.
Whoa, why do you say that? What makes you, that's a big, like, where'd that come from? That's totally left field. And why would someone, you're going to have to explain that one. You went there.
No, I'm just saying it's been known to happen before. It's,
But why? Like, that makes no sense to me.
I mean, to try and increase the perceived value of the car to match the chum bucket price. Potentially.
It happens.
Yeah. I mean, if the car fails to sell at $115,000 and they put a $300,000 buy it now option, people are going to think it's crazy. But
so why wouldn't, if you had an inside deal there, why wouldn't you go higher? Why wouldn't you go 270 or something like that? Why would you stop at 220?
Maybe it depends on what the reserve was.
The bidding stopped at 226, and then they got a post-hammer offer of $230,000, which they did not accept, and it's listed for sale at $285,000. Technically, they're $55,000 away, but if the offer or the final bid are real, I feel like they should be close enough to make a deal. 285. This guy's not going to get 285 for that car in this market. I just don't think that's what I think that's what he wants for it, but I don't think that's what it's worth. So at 230, 226, they should be close enough based on what the real value of this car is. And if those guys at PCAR Market are real salesmen, they should be able to bridge that gap and make a deal. But anyway,
that's assuming the seller is reasonable. I mean, I think this seller probably bought it for well over 250, and is trying to basically get their money back. Maybe take a little bit, and somebody here is probably going, PCAR Market has that reputation, right? We've talked about that over and over and over again. They've got to be sitting there thinking, I screwed up. I shouldn't have done this PCAR Market. That was a total risk, and it's probably PCAR Market's fault. So they can probably still sit in that mindset that their car is still worth more, and not have that come to Jesus moment in their head that maybe the car isn't worth what I thought. Because if this car were on BAT, would it have brought a little more? I don't know, maybe, but probably not much. Maybe it would have gotten a 230 or 245 bid, but still, that's a long way away from 285. If the reserve on this thing was, call it 275. I think the seller just is not willing to admit that the market is soft and it's the wrong time of year for a speedster, one of the nicest speedsters of ever, but still it's a convertible. It's still a drop top. What do you think, Wade?
My question to you, JP, is there really a big difference between 230, 250, 275? I mean, we're talking $250,000. You already put the 2 in front of it. The PCAR Market brought almost $250,000.
$50,000 is a big difference. That's a big spread.
I mean, at that price though, I don't know. I mean, they still brought over $200,000 worth of bids to that car.
Not if you're still living in a moment that isn't here anymore. Yeah. Not if you're not willing to let go. Not if you paid $275 for this thing 6 months ago or even a year ago, and you're going, no, I've got there's no way. This is the nicest car. You're probably pretty pissed at that point that this car not only is now bringing less than what you paid for it, but isn't bringing that big. They were probably hoping to make money on this car when they bought it.
Yeah.
Right. So now they're sitting in this world where they're like, I have to blame this on someone else other than, I made a bad decision when it comes to investing in a car. Because I don't know why anyone who has this car is trying to sell it right now, unless they need the money.
They probably do. I don't know. It's weird to me because if at 280, 285 chum bucket price, 230, 240 bid, like it's close enough to where I almost feel like they could make a deal. But I almost wonder if their 280 number is maybe 15 or 20K, like you said, less than they even paid for it. Maybe they're in the 300s and they're like, all right, I need at least 275. I need at least, something.
Yeah.
That's the only thing, because honestly, in that $200,000 range between $30,000, $40,000, I think it should be close enough to close the deal. I think it should be close enough where maybe they even take 230 or 240, even if they want 280. If they're trying to sell it now, like you said, a convertible in the wintertime in a soft market, I mean, it's close enough for me to just make the deal.
I agree 100%. It's also possible that this guy tried to take it to BAT and couldn't get the reserve he wanted, so he wound up at PCAR Market, where he could feel like he's protecting his asset a little bit better. But if he's trying to get off the car, that 226 or 230, if either of those are legit, that if you can squeeze another 5 or 10 grand out of that guy, that's your buyer, and that's as good as it gets.
Yeah,
it's only going to get worse.
This is all assuming that the person is reasonable and living in the present, in the real world. I think this person isn't there, and I think you bring up a good point, Wade, that the guy probably paid even more than we really think he paid for. He may have paid well over 300. Mental, do you want to hop in there before we move on?
I will just say this. If you're, and I understand why these cars become investment, but this car was built not as an investment. It was built as a passion project. And if you're going to eat this kind of money because you thought you were going to make it, you should have drove it more.
I don't know if that's true, if this car was built as a passion project. I know the person, I know Jaeger very well, and I know that it took him a long time to buy it, or not buy it, build it. But I know he, one thing, Jaeger, if you're watching, love you, bro. I have never met anyone more singularly focused on promoting a single car ever. Like this Jaeger, he flies jet fighter pilot. He's a jet fighter pilot, right? And the way he probably flies his jets is the same way when he's going to do something, he sets his mind to it, and that's whatever his goal is, it's going to happen. No matter what, there's no mountain, there's no anything that's going to get in his way. And I mean, the way he promoted this car for a good solid 3-4 years until he finally did sell it, and he always knew that he was going to get the big money for it. And I remember him talking about it and kind of thinking, yeah, I don't think it's ever going to be worth that much. And I was wrong. So, kudos to Jaeger. But I think there can be a hybrid of both, Mental. I think you can be passion and also go, hey, you know what? I'm going to make some money off this.
But I just come back to, you should have drove it.
Yeah. I saw him drive this thing. I saw him drive it.
Not the guy that built it, guy that bought it.
The guy that bought it, that's a whole other story. The current owner, this might have been the second owner since then. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think this seller is the person that bought it from Jaeger. So anyways, what do you guys think of the results of this amazing 993 rare speedster build? Should the seller have sold it for the 226 that it was bid up to? Is he crazy at a 285 chum bucket price in the deal tank? Is the car going to sell, you guys think? Let us know in the comments below, and let's move on to our next poor prediction that we made last on Sunday. Boy, God, we are not good at this.
All right, so let's jump over to BAT, where we're looking at that 2007 BMW 335 with the Deja Vu package. This is a sports sedan with a 6-speed manual. Like, oh, that looks familiar. It's because that's the car we covered just a couple of weeks ago on October 12th on Cars and Bids, where the Hammer sold it at $19,750 on 43 bids. However, the buyer could not get financing and failed to execute the transaction. The consignor then took the car to BAT, where it ran at no reserve with the same bucket of photos, same description, same 57,000 original miles. We looked at it again and put some new numbers on it, knowing that it had to run at no reserve. I thought it would come right back to the same number it was at $19,000 on the bigger platform. JP took the under at $18,335. Wade split the difference at $18,500, and Mental astutely took the under at $16,500 because our car sold for only $15,085 on 23 bids. Mental, why'd you take the under? Was it the platform or the car running twice? And what do you think of that result? Because it even sold for essentially $1,415 less than your bid, which is an astonishingly low number. Considering basically it cost this guy, let's do the math here, nearly $5,000 to switch platforms and try to sell it again. That is a bummer.
It's a cool car, and I hope that whoever got it recognized they got a deal, and I hope they drive it. But it's not a collector's car. This thing doesn't stand out in traffic, so it's only special to the person that has it because it is that 6-speed with the cool wheels and everything like that. But this isn't a show it off to your friend's car. This isn't a wrap it in plastic and keep it car. And like you said, and if they're willing to switch platforms that quickly, they've got something else they want to do with the money. And we live in Vegas. You live in the Bay Area. How many red BMW 3 Series sedans do you see running around there?
Well,
I mean, what? I mean, dead air.
I think red's
I
think red's pretty rare, but I get your point. It's a sheep in sheep's clothing that happen to go to the gym. So I got you. Nothing special. Wade, what do you think of that result? $15,000 though. That's cold water, man.
Yeah, they lost a lot, and they probably lost a bit more in fees and time and headaches and heartache. I mean, I almost feel like Cars and Bids was the right platform for this car because it's kind of that younger, quirky kind of generation of car that somebody in their 20s or 30s would have bought and slammed and wrapped and made a whole thing of. I don't know that anybody on Bring a Trailer is going to do anything to this car. It might go to some old guy who just wanted something moderately interesting. I don't know how much the time of year had to do with it, or maybe people think that a car that was sold once and didn't come, the sale didn't go through and is resold again. Maybe they feel like it's, something sour with it, which may or may not be the case, but it seemed like just the buyer couldn't get financing, which is not unusual at 10% interest rates on average. So it's unfortunate. I don't know. It's not that interesting of a car, so it's not going to attract that many people. But man, $4,000 or $5,000 less than a couple of weeks ago is painful, no matter what.
Yeah.
Is Zach on? Is Zach Miller watching?
He is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Zach, let's ask you if you don't mind jumping into the comments real quick and let us know, did Cars and Bids try to get this car to rerun, or did you actually ask him not to rerun it again? Like what's the protocol at Cars and Bids as far as, it's not the fault of the platform, it's not the fault of the consignor, it's unfortunate circumstances. Do you guys go out of your way to be like, hey, just give us a couple of weeks and we'll run it again for you with a disclaimer that, there was a failure to perform? Or was this guy just in too big a hurry and he had to run out the door? Or do you guys actually have a rule where you're like, hey, man, we can't rerun the car. It's not our policy. Because I can't remember. I think everybody's maybe a little bit different. I'm just wondering if Zach can chime in on how they handled this one, because that would be interesting if you know.
I'd be curious from you guys. Would you ever rerun a car if you were selling one on a different platform? Do you see the pros and cons either way? I personally feel like I don't think I would, but maybe you guys would.
JP, didn't you run a car on? Didn't you rerun one of your car? It came in like a Cayenne with a manual, or all of them sold the first time?
Yeah, no, everything is either sold or I've had one FTS, but no, I never reran everything. Looks like Zach he says rare that we rerun, as it typically won't overperform, as proven here. If ever, minimum 6 months waiting period. I mean it.
So they do have a rule, yeah. So they're saying we don't think we can replicate the thing. So it's up to you to decide if you want to try your luck elsewhere. And I understand that. It sounds harsh, but there's some logic behind it. It's not meant to be, piss off.
Yeah, but I feel like they should, though. I mean, if
it's a numbers game,
But if it made a certain number and then the buyer didn't come through, then that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the car. They should rerun it again, and I think they should do it quickly. And they should say that it should be all over the place that that this person thinked, and that this is a great car and this is your second chance at it, and try to sell it as an upside or something like that. If someone FTSs I don't think they should rerun it for a minimum of 6 months. That, you know what I mean? It's
right. That's two different programs. So Zach, next time you guys have a Zoom with the board, JP needs to sit down and tell Doug how to run his site. Okay.
Clearly, I mean,
I
clearly,
agree with that. I definitely agree with that. It would make a lot of sense to say, all right, here's the 12 bidders on this car. We'll send them an email, give them 72 hours. The car is back on, and see what happens. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, make a big deal out of it, because it's like, dude, this is the poor guy trusted your platform to sell the car. And really, you know, we've talked about this before. We talk about it all the time. These platforms really are just a dating service. It's just the platform put your car out there, and the high bidder, the platform just puts those two people together and takes a bid. So Cars and Bids got their money. You know, I mean, that high bidder that finked on the seller, or, you know, he still had to pay whatever the premium was on his credit card. So Cars and Bids made money off of it. It seems kind of ishy that they would be like, well, sorry, dude, wait 6 months and try again. At no fault of the sellers, that's crappy.
Yeah. And then Zach, I have another question. Zach saying that it's hard to convince people of that over the internet. And I understand that. I champion JP's point, but it doesn't mean it's easy to execute. You can try, but sometimes you just move on and you got bigger fish to fry.
Well,
Zach,
would it be? Hold on. Would it be better for the seller to try to resell it on the same platform with a big thing that said "Fink Buyer"? From the previous auction, we're giving this guy another shot, or would it be better to go to another platform? If you're the seller, wouldn't you rather basically get special treatment on a second try on the same platform? I think that'd be the better way to go.
Yeah, I personally, if Cars and Bids would have reran this car, I think I don't know that they would have got 19,750, but I definitely think they would have got over $15,085, and I think they would have got more than 23
especially
bids.
in this particular case, because you know, this particular car, like Wade said, belongs on Cars and Bids. This is a Cars and Bids car. On BAT, this car gets lost. Nobody cares about a Buddha spec red on ball sack, you know, tan BMW on BAT, but on Cars and Bids, a car that's under $20,000. I think this thing is. I think this is a really good car for the money.
Yeah,
and
Buddha,
it just deserves special treatment as a second try. So Zach says, in a case like this, BMW, our post-sale team does go through the back office operations to connect the car to the other bidders without a rerun. Okay, but that's also different.
Didn't work.
Yeah,
it didn't work.
Cool, valiant effort.
Will you read Buddha's comment, because my own camera is covering it? I can't see it. What does Buddha say?
He says, "Hey."
Hey. All right. Hey, Zach, I have one more question for you. Since this guy was the winning bidder and did not perform and hung your consignor out to dry, is that guy blacklisted for any period of time or indefinitely? Is that a protocol of Cars and Bids, that somebody who fails to buy then, you know, is reprimanded or banned from your site, from engaging with your site and messing with your clients ever again? Curious to know.
They should have a whole section on the website that just says "fake buyers," like losers.
So,
like you know how like when you used to go into a grocery store and they'd have pictures of people that wrote bad checks, you know, and their license up on the wall.
Everyone under the age of 30 is wondering what a check is.
Exactly. That's my point.
But to both your point, because Cars and Bids has their feces co-located, bam, absolutely. As Zach said, they are done. You will not see that bidder again.
Bravo. I do believe that's justice. That guy shouldn't be allowed on your site. You gotta protect your reputation as best you can. It's a bummer.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to your point again, even though we contested the argument to present both sides, I agree with you, JP. I think if Cars and Bids would have ran this car, they would have got more money for it.
Well, and as an example, BAT, we profiled our friend Shadi's car. That car did fail to sell. His car is a beautiful car, but it just straight up FTS'd. And then they waited a few weeks or maybe a couple of months or something like that.
Just a couple months.
A couple months later, and it wound up going double. So I think there's something about the platform embracing the car. Again, I think special treatment is in order for a poor seller that
it
has
sounds
to deal
like
with this.
it sounds like Zach tried or his team tried, and the buyer was probably the buyer wanted that money for something else.
Yeah.
Yep.
And wanted to try somewhere else, and that, kind of like the Jaeger Speedster seller, that guy's just not willing to kind of come to Jesus and go, hey, I need to move this car and just take whatever, maybe he's still thinking that he was using the platform as the reason his car didn't get where he wanted to go. Or something. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below about this BMW. Should Cars and Bids have rerun this car and given him special treatment? Do you think it was a good idea for the seller to take such a low amount on BAT at this point and just cut his losses? Do you think that the car would have brought more money if it was run again on Cars and Bids? Let us know in the comments below. We love hearing from you guys. All right, what other bad predictions did we make from last week?
All right, JP, we covered Chris Carbine's 2022 Porsche 911 GT3 with just I can't remember, 2,100 miles. Beautiful car. White, manual, buckets, steel brakes. Super nice spec, super fair color. It's not, a polarizing or desirable PTS, but I think white is fine for this car. I think that's a popular color, easy to resell. And Chris decided to entrust Cars and Bids with the car. So it was on Cars and Bids platform. And I have to say, Cars and Bids has probably sold a fraction of manual GT3s compared to BAT, who is the GT3 superstore. So in of itself, I think it was pretty bold move to take it to Cars and Bids. But good photos, nice presentation, not a ton of engagement, not a ton of bids, but the car is going to do well. We knew that. In fact, as soon as the car dropped, it went $100,000, $200,000 in the first 2 or 3 bids. It was up to $200,000, and at that point had less than 10% to go to reach the reserve, which I knew about in the back of my mind. So without further ado, my bid on the car, where I thought it would sell on Cars and Bids, was $233,000. JP, you came in just slightly over me by about $6-7 grand. At $239,992. Wade took the over on top of you at $241,000, and Mental covered Wade at $241,993. Without further ado,
hold on.
The car. Yep.
Mental 993, not 992. 241,993.
I was having an off night. Sorry.
Okay, what did it sell for, Deep? Sorry.
A car sold for $228,000 on just 13 bids. This car got some bids on the night before the close of the auction. Chris and his client were discussing, pulling the reserve to ensure that it would go. And no need. The car kind of got there organically. They did pull it, but it got right to where they were, I think, just basically in the ballpark of where they were hoping to go. Now, Chris Carbine spoke to the winning bidder at length, I think the night before the car closed. Real nice gentleman out of Houston, Texas. And Carbine called me afterwards and said, I spent nearly an hour on the phone with this guy. He says he is for sure going to bid. Super interested party, really nice guy, yada, yada, yada. That guy wound up being the winning bidder. So I think Chris made a friend and hopefully a long-term client. Chris was trying to get the winning bidder of this car to watch the show tonight. Now, Carbine, if you're listening, is that guy on with us, or can we talk shit and tell him he paid too much?
I don't think he paid too much. I think this car is well bought.
I think he did great. He absolutely did great. No,
I think this is a great example of a seasonal buy. I don't care what platform this car was on. It wasn't high enough spec to bring big, huge money. In the spring, I think this is a car that people really like. We all talked about how this is the spec that we all would prefer because it's kind of the most basic classic of GT3s, if there is such a thing. But this car, fantastic ride. And I wish I had a chance to buy it. What do you think, Wade?
And the bidder is watching the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If he wants to give any of us a ride in his new car, come on down. We'd love to review it at a distance.
Yeah. Vegas is only slightly out of the way between New Orleans and Houston.
Yeah, give it a quick break in a couple of 2,000 miles.
I mean, he's in the right. Look, he's south. He can just take the 10 straight across the bottom there. Come on up, watch F1 this weekend. It's going to be a good time.
Really
and
well.
you've got the car that can be here in New Orleans from New Orleans in less than a day.
Yeah, I mean that guy. He's.
True.
Come on, dude, get in that car. Let's see you. Let's come and hang out at is Cars and Bits or not Cars and Bits is Cars and Cafe this weekend or next weekend? I don't even know.
No, 2 weekends. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving.
After Thanksgiving,
After Thanksgiving. Hey, Wade, have you driven one of these? Have you driven like a 991.2 or a?
He's a Ferrari owner. He doesn't want anything.
Hey, go easy on him.
Lovely Porsche.
I have not. I would love to if I had two nickels to rub together anymore. This would be a car that I would really, love to drive. I think it was also well bought. It's an interesting spec. I know we went back and forth on steel brakes, carbon ceramic brakes, that whole deal. I think this is a really nice spec that you're going to enjoy driving it, maybe even daily, every other day on the weekends. And I think it was well bought at that price. I'm a little jealous, honestly.
Yeah, the last couple I've seen have gone for $240, so I think at $228 that's a really good buy.
Yeah,
and I don't think it's low spec. Certainly PTS and ceramics would add a little money to the pot, but I wouldn't call this car low spec. With a manual, it's going to bring a good return down the road, and the buckets. If you fit in the buckets, they enhance the driving experience like nothing else. No other option you could put on the car. They're incredible. They make a really big difference when you're making turns in this vehicle, and it's an incredible machine. And for that money, I mean, good grief, it's only a few dollars over MSRP. I'd say it's very well bought. Congratulations to everyone involved.
All right, what do you guys think of the results of that GT3? I think everyone in the studio is quite jealous.
So is the Nerd Herd. Everyone in the Nerd Herd is congratulating the buyer. They all know this was a well-bought car from a very reputable person. Yeah, that Deeb said it. Everyone won on this one.
And no ball sack leather interior. Congrats.
You are no longer allowed to say that. You now have to say supple ball sack.
Supple ball sack. Yes. Does not have that particular feature.
Mental, have you ever met a ball sack that wasn't supple?
I have literally no list of comparisons.
Hardened
but
balls.
You know what?
Oh, wait,
but also,
you were in the military.
I don't
Don't
judge. I don't kink shame. Everyone does what they're supposed to do. This is America. You pay your taxes. Good. And everyone should be pleased to know that is watching this later. He is going to be driving this car. This car is not going to sit and get wrapped in plastic. God bless you, sir. Yes.
Well done. Golf clap.
Just watch out for Sahan and his Mercedes in straight lines. All right, let's move on. What was the other poor prediction we made on the last episode?
So we looked at a 1977 Lancia Scorpione. This is a manual 2-seat mid-engine 1.8 liter inline 4 5-speed car out of Italy. Lancia and Fiat had a really great partnership. So the motor that came in this car is a Fiat twin cam motor. A previous owner of this car upgraded the motor from the 1.8 to the 2 liter, which would, maybe not a lot of noticeable horsepower, but certainly a lot of noticeable torque. It's probably a nice, call it 5 to 10% increase in torque, making this very light, very nimble, and incredibly good handling car that much more fun to drive. 5-speed manual, disc brakes all around. This car is actually very modern. The trouble with owning a Lancia is finding a mechanic that knows how to work on them and can source parts. The other problem with a car like this would be getting it to pass smog in California. That would be a challenge. So these cars don't bring a lot of money in the secondary market, but they have a very unusual, edgy Pininfarina design. Super cool car, and we thought it might do well since it was treated to some recent bodywork and paint and has the upgraded motor. Without further ado, I started the bidding at $20,000. JP took a really steep under by $6,000 at $14,000. And then in the other direction, Wade covered my bid by $4,000 and said $24,000. And Mental came in just over JP at $16,500. Our car, I can't remember now. Was it running at no reserve? I don't think it was. I think it did have a reserve.
No, it was a no reserve car.
Oh, yeah, no reserve car. All right, so our car was no reserve. It sold for $25,500 on 31 bids. Wade, you came the closest, and that's such a really good bid on your part. When you bid 24, I was like, ooh, this car could bring 24, and it did. Well done to you. Just to recap, JP won the Speedster, Mental won the BMW, I won the GT3, and Wade won the Lancia. Since we've been doing the show in the new format, that's the first time where each person won one of the week. That's the first time that's ever happened. So congratulations to everybody. You all get a prize.
We all get participation points.
Yeah, it's like being on Oprah. Yeah, you get one, and you get one, and you get one.
Yeah, I think that's the only car, too, where one of the nerds actually beat the nerd herd. Because looking at the Randy Bloom is keeping track of their bids, and usually someone in the nerd herd beats all of us. Wade, you beat everyone on this one, so good job on the Italian MR2. What do you guys think of the results of that car? Let us know in the comments below.
Anthony had the best comment so far. Anthony's won the comments on the Lancia.
Okay, so what are you keeping us in?
This is just like an Italian girlfriend. She'll drive you nuts, leave you stranded, and once she's gone, you're gonna miss her.
That's well done, Anthony.
Wow,
that is bravo.
Your ball sack will be all alone. Let's go to commercial. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden. This guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. If you don't subscribe to Bid Nerds on YouTube right now, I'm gonna shoot this 997. If you said, wait, that's a 996, you're a nerd. So subscribe to the new YouTube channel, Bid Nerds.
Get those nerds!
Have you subscribed yet? Have you gotten this far into the show and you still haven't subscribed? Come on, man. Join the nerd herd. There's great people in the field out there, man. I think I would rather be part of the nerd herd than be the actual host of the nerds, because the nerd herd looks like they're having more fun. They're hanging out. They're making jokes in the comments. From what I hear, there's going to be some nerd herd gatherings, especially up in Idaho, where all of our that seems to be the biggest collection of nerds in one place. Although I don't know, maybe out there in New Zealand, a bunch of nerds out there too. Love you guys. Subscribe to the show. Okay, let's get to some new predictions. We've got some interesting cars lined up for predictions. What's the first one on the list? Michael D.
All right, JP, without further ado, we were looking at a car like this not that long ago that was, I think, a base Carrera. What we got now is another 2011 Porsche 911 Carrera, this time an S coupe with a 6-speed manual and just 44,000 miles. Basic bitch, white paint with standard wheels and standard brakes and standard seats. It's not high spec. No buckets weren't even available, but it doesn't have ceramics or fancy suspension components. But as you mentioned, when you go back and look at what was happening to the planet in 2011, we were coming out of a recession. There was no demand for new cars. Porsche was not building a lot of vehicles. And as such, finding a 997.2 coupe, especially an S with a manual, and to be in just basic standard original condition is a rare thing indeed. So I thought this car.
I want to jump in here. Do you know this seller? Because this parking lot looks familiar.
No,
I want to say we have featured other cars that were photographed in this parking lot.
Yeah, the seller is RT Wong, and it doesn't ring a bell with me, but doesn't mean it's not true. I just probably not noticed. It's a little nondescript, but good job, Mental, if you're correct. In any case, JP, white, black, super nice spec. Super decent mileage, and a super fun driving car, especially for the money. Our car is in Pasadena, California, with 44,000 miles. Clean Carfax, and that's basically the window stickers there. This was I can't see that, like $97,000 car when it's brand new. 4 previous owners. There it is, a .2 manual S. What do you like about it, JP? Anything you don't like about this car? Is there some troubleshooting that you would have to check out before you would blindly make a bid on something like this? Or is this a car where you could just sort of close your eyes, throw a bid, and if you win, you feel like you got lucky?
Yeah, this car, I mean, it's surprising it doesn't have chrono, but other than that, this thing is really the car you want. I mean, this version, this era of the 997, they pretty much fixed most of the problems that the 997 had. And for my money, I want one of these way more than almost any 991. Especially first generation 991s. And I think we're going to see the value of 991s really start to take it in the shorts. That is a car that I think is going to be one of the most susceptible to market adjustments in reality. Whereas these cars, I think, are going to, if any of the modern era of Porsches are going to hold, it's this car, because there's just still, no matter what, never going to be very many of them. Whereas there are a gajillion first generation 991s. I mean, this car is so much better than a 991.1 Carrera S that I can't imagine paying more for the 991. I even like the color. I like everything about this car. I want it.
Isn't it amazing to consider how much smaller this car is in like capacity and measurement, like wheelbase and width and track and the whole thing? This is like just an infinitely tinier vehicle than a 991. It's really
I actually drove Rami's 997 today, and it just reminds me how great 997s are. Of course, his just had all the Fab Speed turbos and plenums and blah 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 blah. I don't know how much horsepower it has now, but it is ridiculous. But even when I was driving that car, and as crazy, blisteringly nutty fast as it was, it just made me go, God, you know what? I really want a dang 997. These are the perfect cars. It's the perfect size. It still feels like a 911. They're just so much better than anything that's come newer than these. Wade, what do you think of these?
I think you might be the high bidder on this.
Yeah, if I had the money, I would be. I might. Yeah.
But yeah, this is a really nice car. 5,000 mile a year car. It seems like it's been well taken care of. I go back and forth on the spec, because this is a car that obviously is more of a driver's car, but I don't know that this is a driver's spec. White is kind of boring, and we've reviewed 3, 4, 12 different white Porsches the last couple of weeks, and we've all been kind of critical on who ends up buying a kind of basic bitch sort of spec. I think a different spec would have, a different paint, maybe different interior, something a little bit more interesting would really command a higher premium on a car like this. I think the white hurts it just a little bit. Other than that, though, I think it's a really nice car to all the points that you brought up. And it's, color aside, going to go to somebody who's going to appreciate the driving experience more than anything else. At first glance, it kind of looks like the wife's Porsche from a distance, but I think behind the wheel, it's most likely not.
Mental, you're driving around a 993 in white on black, very similar to this car. What do you think of this 997?
I'm with you on this one. This is, I don't drive cars to show off to other people. In fact, I would prefer something like this because it does not attract the attention of law enforcement. It's set up just nicely. It's a great car. And if you want one of those crazy paint to sample kind of a deals, you've got the ability to wrap these things now so affordably, and you can go absolutely bonkers and actually end up protecting your investment while you're, feeding your wild side, so to speak. This is just a great car, great miles. You guys have all really hit it on the head on this one.
It does kind of look like, so I remember when the NSX came out, the answer is no, because I'm old and you guys aren't. But when the NSX came out, they were writing about it in all the magazines. They're like, oh, this is going to be the car that all the Hollywood hussies are going to be driving around. And one of the reporters was like, lucky hussies. So if the wife is driving this car, she's a lucky wife, because this is just a great, great car to be driving. The question is, will that color hurt the value? What do you think, Michael Deep?
I don't. I do. Let's see. It's hard to say. I agree with Wade that if it were an unusual color, it might bring a teeny bit more money. So maybe I am saying it hurts the value. It hurts the potential. But I still think this car is going to do fine. Honestly, I think if it was red, it would bring a little less money. But that's just me, because I don't like red on a Porsche. So anyways, our car is sitting at $51,000, and it closes in 2 days from now, and it's got just 7 bids. I think this car is poised to do fine. And with that in mind, I will give you my bid at $74,000, where I believe it will sell.
Whew, this is a tough one. The white color, I don't think it helps or hurts it. It's pretty much as basic as the color itself, but the car itself is just so good, and so many people want these. But boy, it's going to be tough. This is just the wrong time of year to be buying something like this. But I'm going to go up to 69,997. I don't think it's going to break 70. It's tough for 997s, any 997 that isn't a GT version, to get much higher than that. Even one that's as good as this. Yeah.
Can I call you out? For 3 years we've been doing this show, you've been calling at 7.2 S manuals unicorns. Is your bid, which sounds bearish, is that because of the color? Is it because of the spec? Is it because of the time of year? Is it because of the economy? Why are you being bearish on this car? I actually thought you'd come in over me, especially after you just talked it up.
No, I love just because I love the car doesn't mean I think the value, the market value is absurd. I mean, the fact is most people don't agree with me that the 997.2 is better than a 991. And 991s, if you're looking at like an early 991, let's say, 2013, just a couple years newer than this car, with the same miles, 44,000 miles with a manual, the people that are selling those are going to be trying to get 90 for them, and reality is they're probably going to get around 70 something with the market adjustment that we're seeing now. And I think that this 997 is coveted as it is, and as much of a unicorn as it may be, it is not realized as the unit. It's an underrealized unicorn. People just aren't clamoring. Only people that know really want one of these. Most people just look at it as they don't even know the difference between a .1 and a .2. It's just a 997, which means it's just the older 911. You want the newer one, right? Wade, what's your number?
I think we've been under on a lot of cars recently, and I think this one's going to prove us all wrong. I think it'll get probably $74,500. And I mean, from MSRP to now, that's not a lot of depreciation. So there's still a lot of value in this car.
I hope you're right. What do you think, Mental?
Wade's correct. They just released a study. The 25 cars, the most depreciation and the least depreciation. Shocker to no one. 911s still hold their value more than any other car mass produced in the world. This one is good. The color may hurt it, but I feel like it also attracts a more conservative buyer who's attracted to the car. And I do think that this is the time of year. It's a hardtop. This is a daily driver. This is a car you can live with unless you are someplace in the miserable cold Midwest. But most climates, you can drive this thing to work every day and not sweat it too hard.
Yeah, all right, so what do you guys think out there? We're getting some bids in the nerd herd. They're all coming in pretty close to us. David Sullivan figured out the live. Welcome, David.
Yep.
Mental, read a couple of the bids. Where are people at? We were
so it's interesting. We've got we got a 66, we've got a 67 from Anthony, the 66 is from our buddy Sahan, Ross Churchhouse, and he's stealing my joke, but Ross says 69 dudes. And then all the way down to Buddha, who says 59997.
Whoa, that's really bearish on that.
And then our buddy David says 68.
16.
Yeah.
All right.
Mental. What was your bid again? I'm sorry, I did not write it down. Give it to me.
I didn't say it. Thank you. So my bid is actually going to be 69,699. Because I have to be cute.
Man. All right. Right under mine. Okay. Looks like we got some good bids coming in here. Someone's going to, is this no reserve deep or is this one?
No, it's got a reserve.
It's got a reserve. Okay. All right. Well, we'll find out in just a couple of days how much this car does or does not go for. Let's move on to the next car. What do we got?
JP, one of my favorite cars that is not very popular in the United States because it was never brought here is the 1977 Porsche Carrera, 911 Carrera, 3-liter Targa. This is a ROW car because, again, this particular model was never imported to the United States. So picture this. In 1973, Porsche made the first Carrera with wide hips and a 2.7-liter MFI motor. In 1974, 75, and 76, they carried that motor over in Europe in the European Carreras, while in the United States, they did not import that motor because it was difficult to pass smog on those new impact bumper cars. So while that car lived on in Europe in 74, 75, and 76, in 1976 and 1977, Porsche made a 3-liter Carrera that basically used the 3-liter turbo Carrera block without the turbo. It made 10 horsepower less and thus was not a very commercially successful car for Porsche to sell throughout Europe. But the car made more torque than the 2.7 liter and thus was a better performing vehicle. So for those that were smart enough and knew, they bought what has been affectionately referred to all these years as the Porsche 911 C3, the Carrera 3-liter Targa. Or it came in Targa and it came in coupe. So anyways, they didn't make a ton of these cars, 1,100 of them over 2 years. And again, in 2 different body styles being Targa or coupe. Most of them were coupes. A lot of these cars came with a dark blue carpet, and that is usually one of the ways to denote the European Carreras, whether they're 2.7 or 3 liters. Our car is a beautiful burgundy color and has those beautiful corduroy pinstripe seat inserts. It also has my favorite, the Turbo Carrera wing. Really neat car with mixed max Fuchs. So it's going to be 15-inch Fuchs that are probably 6s in the front and 7s in the rear. Wonderful driving car. This is, again, not the SC block and not the SC spec. JP, what does an SC make in horsepower? Isn't it like 180?
Yeah.
So these cars made 200 horsepower. And again, a couple of years before the SC came into fruition. This is a completely different block. It has different I can't think of the thing.
Well, I mean, it's the year before. It doesn't have the magnesium.
But it's a really cool block, and it's a different number of head studs. It's a really interesting car, fabulous car to drive, higher compression than what we got on SCs in the United States. So here's a cool car that's on a domestic title offered out of Ormond Beach, Florida. Really neat car, and I love it. It's a car that you just have to be a complete Carrera G-body geek to understand what this is. And then if you're lucky enough to drive one, I think it'll really impress you. The way we think, JP, that SCs are peppy, this thing would be peppier still. So I send it back to you, JP. I know you know what it is, but have you ever driven one?
Yeah, and I don't know. It's hard to tell the difference between this and a regular SC. Yeah, I guess they have a little bit more horsepower. I actually like the 2.7 if it's uncorked when you take the the thermal reactors off of the exhaust.
Off the car.
Yeah, the 2.7s are really rev happy. It may not be as fast as an SC, but they have that butt horsepower just because the engine sounds like it's doing something. This is a great car. I think Targas, though, this time of year are really going to get hurt. I'm already seeing Targas on some of the other online kind of classified ads places where you see Porsches, some of the forums and stuff like that. Targas it's almost like cabs almost do better than Targas this time of year. If people want, if you're not a cabrio-phobe and you're down for a cab, you'll still pay for it. But something about Targa people, they're just not around in the off season. This car will do way better in the spring. I think this car is kind of DOA, honestly. It's the wrong. This color is not one of those colors that people get super excited about. I don't think people are super. It's not really a collector. This car is the kind of car that would have done well a year ago when everyone was looking for any kind of Porsche, especially something that was kind of rare. You could say, oh, well, it's a 3-liter, it's the Euro, it's the this, that, and the other. Now I think all those things that would have maybe given it more value a year ago are now going to be things that are going to hurt it. Wade, what do you think of this car?
I think I like the Targa top. I like the color. I might be the buyer, but I don't know what the F I'm looking at. I have no idea where this car came from. I have no idea why there's a European difference between a U.S. difference. And I don't know what value that brings to somebody other than, like you guys said, somebody who actually specifically knows what this is and why it's here and why it's better. I have no idea. I mean, maybe you can kind of enlighten me on what kind of value that brings other than the fact that all the hard work is done and it's here, it's on the U.S. title. Is there a lot of value in bringing this car here in what it is?
I'm going to say no. I mean, you could make an argument that there was, but probably not enough to. I don't know. I think that this car has probably been in the country for a very long time. It's not like it was brought here recently. The Euro spec cars are a little lighter. If you look at the bumpers, I don't know if you can show the rear bumper there. Mental. This is pretty basic stuff for air-cooled 911 people, but for those of you who don't know all the stupid little things, the ROW bumpers, those rear bumpers, those bumper guards, there you go, are way smaller and way lighter on the European spec than on the American one. There's tons of little things like that on the Euro ROW cars that are different. This is the era of federalization. The impact bumpers in general were added to the 911 because of the American market. Look, in 1975, 74, 75, they weren't even sure the 911 was going to continue. If you look at magazines from the era, I remember leafing through like a Volks VW magazine from 1975 and coming across the 75 911 looks like they're going to keep selling it in America. Maybe it gets one more year. If you like that Porsche thing, you're really going to like this car. I mean, they just they had a lot of status, but they were really expensive, especially with the the exchange rate in that era too. There was tons of inflation in America, whereas so the Germans were making a lot more money selling the cars in Europe than they were here. So I don't know. This car is just not that rare. It's not like a 2.6. It's not like a an MFI car that is really closer to the 73 RS, but without the wing and stuff. What do you think, Deeb, in answer to his question? Is that about right, or do you have a different opinion?
I think the point you made, JP, that a year ago, if this guy would have sold this car, you've been flirting with six figures for it. But today, in a soft market with a car that not enough people know about, and nobody's speculating on where the market's going to go anymore. In fact, it just seems like people are getting off cars. I feel like this guy is one of them. And if the reserve is reasonable, it can wind up being a fantastic buy, a fantastic grab. Again, if you were to buy a 1977 Targa that wasn't a Carrera, this car is just going to be a ton of performance. It's going to handle a little bit better. It's got some nice specification with that interior. That's an interior a lot of people would like to duplicate. That's from the factory, this one. And that motor is a jewel. It's an absolute jewel. That's a $45,000 motor in that car. What
do you think it'll bring?
So JP, our car, to your credit, is only sitting at $15,000, and it ends in 2 days from now. This guy, as you said, dead on arrival. Personally, I think this car is still worth $70,000 to $85,000, but I don't know where he goes to get that number. It's what it's worth to me, I guess. But it'd be hard to think that this car brings anything more than, I'm going to say, $65,000, where I don't think it will sell. And if it does, I'll probably cry because I'll wish I could have bought it for $65,000. Believe it or not, JP, this car runs circles around my car. This car basically makes the same horsepower as my car and probably weighs 500 pounds less. You know what I mean?
Yeah, weighs a lot less and is less restricted too. The exhaust doesn't have the same smog stuff that the American ones had. That's another answer to your question, Wade. I don't see this thing getting anywhere near that number. If it were a coupe, maybe, yeah. But I'm thinking, how much time we got left on this? Okay, there's still a couple of days. So I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna go. What was your numbers?
65.
65. I'm gonna go 59, 911. I don't think it breaks 60. I think a year ago it could have been in that 70 range if it were the summertime or spring. But winter, the weirdness of the car and the fact that it's Targa, I think the guy's keeping it till spring. What do you think, Wade?
I think I've been influenced. I'm price anchoring off of Michael Deeb's original estimate in the 70 to 80K range, and maybe a six-figure car a year ago. That's so tough. I mean, do I think it loses?
Well, let me say this. I don't think he's right that this was a six-figure car even a year ago. No way. Not a Targa. If it were a coupe, yes, but not a Targa.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, losing $30,000 or $40,000 over the course of a year or two is a lot. But even still, I mean, we've seen these cars not miss the mark as much as we thought, and I mean, getting a car like this for 50 or 60 grand is still a good deal. I can't imagine it goes that low. I originally was in my mind thinking 71, but maybe I'll do a little under at 69,000. and hope for the best. But I feel like there's got to be a lot of buyers at that price, even still.
Yeah. Do we think it sells, or is it an FTSD? Bet your number or my number? I don't know.
At 65, I think it fails to sell. Like I said, if it sells at 65, I'll wish I could have bought it.
There's a huge spread in the nerd herd out there. I mean,
literally from $30,000 to $125,000.
It's $125. Holy cow!
30,
Really?
Fails to sell from Ross. Fails to sell from Ross
$15,000.
Churchhouse. Randy saying 52. Our boy Sahan's got 55.9. Kevin 89,911. Buddha's giving us 59, and Chris says these 3 liters are awesome, and he's saying 125.
Wow. What do you think, Metal?
In Europe, this car would bring more money.
Yeah, I cannot look at this car from a financial standpoint because the Targa and that interior make me feel exactly the same way as when I look at Selma Hayek's 50-year-old bikini photos.
Absolutely.
Makes me think all kinds of wonderful, naughty things, and I could just slide in there and be so happy for the rest of my life. But this is Bid Nerds. I'm going to say 63, and I hope I'm wrong, and I hope it sells for 55 because that means there is a Targa out there for me.
At 55, you can find this car or a car like it. Maybe not a 3-liter, but an SE for well under 55 is doable again.
But this one, it's all the options I never knew I wanted until I saw them all in one place.
I think we need to instill, we need a new drinking game. We've got, if I talk about inflation, you guys drink. And if Mental mentions him wanting to bang Selma Hayek, you guys can have a couple of drinks. This is becoming a regular thing, and I'm slightly disturbed by that. All right.
Brown chicken, brown cow.
Let's move on to the next car. What else we got?
All right. Apparently, I picked this car for Mental.
A lot of nice. Okay, yeah.
Oh, yes.
On Cars and Bids is a 1985 Mazda RX-7 that happens to be a GSL-SE. This car has 51,500 miles. It is a 5-speed manual and, of course, rotary power. Super cool car out of Genoa, Georgia. Am I saying that right, Mental? What do you think?
Yeah, sure. I don't know. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I don't know either. Anyway, cool. Super cool car. 1.3 liter twin rotor Wankel engine, 135 horsepower, 133 pound-foot of torques.
The most powerful of the first generation rotaries on this one. This was the first introduction of the fuel injection. This is actually the predecessor to the 13T that went into the second generation. 6-port fuel injection. It was a 1-year only creation, and it was the last of this generation before they went with the blatant 944 copy. I've had 4 first generation RX-7s, and one of these are amazing cars.
Yeah. So, Mental, thank you for introducing the car. JP, I send this beautiful special edition first gen with the
period
fancy,
correct inkies. Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah, and look at those sports seats. It's really nice looking corduroy seats. My friend Danny Murphy had a silver RX-7 with a red interior. And I remember ripping around in that car with him, and it was just fun. I mean, you just basically wail on that thing, and it seemed at the time like you could just wring it to within an ounce of its life, and it would just keep going and going and going. Super cool car, pop-up headlights. It absolutely reminds me of high school, JP. I've never raced one or ripped one around like Mental has, but I just remember a time in San Francisco where these cars were everywhere. Everybody had one. It seemed like it was the most affordable sports car. Everybody talks affectionately about 240Zs. I don't remember interfacing with a lot of 240Zs. It feels like that car was actually just ahead of my time. But this car was everywhere, and my best friend had one. So
this is
JP.
You hit on a note on this one because the Nerd Herd are all telling stories relating to a first generation RX-7 right now.
Yeah. So JP, this car is nostalgic for me. I sent it over to you because I really don't know a lot about these. Because I've never owned one, but this thing in this colorway with those wheels and the originality of this car, I couldn't pass it up. It was too fun not for us to cover. This one just looks to be in really spectacular condition, and I mean that. So I sent it over to you, JP. What do you like about these?
This is definitely the car that, if you had a buddy who was your wingman, this is the car you wanted him to drive because you go to the club, and when you have to bring a couple of girls home. There's no room in this car. So that means, and if my wife's watching, sorry, I've been married forever, but there was a time. And so that means like getting in the back of one of these with some girl that you just met at the nightclub, that made for an interesting ride back.
Or they both had to sit in your lap.
Precisely. This is and the ones that you didn't want to bring home, or anyone that you didn't want to give a ride. It's like, sorry, 2 seats. What are you gonna do? So yeah, this is definitely the right car for back in the day, and I love it for just that alone. Blue Jagle, how you doing, buddy? If you're out there watching his little red RX-7, we had a lot of fun in that car. What do you think, Wade?
I think I yield my time to the man behind the
He's
switch.
already gone a little.
I want to hear all the stories and all the tales.
Oh,
Just
no,
please,
enlighten
God,
me.
don't tell us how it's
Enlighten us
Selma
all,
Hayek.
please.
For Christ's
No,
sake.
yeah, and honestly, you guys thought we were bad about the Scirocco. Yes, this one. And the thing is these were actually, even for the era, they were extremely lightweight. You could get them sideways and just hold them there. They made no torque, so you did have to rev the snot out of them. Right there, if I'm looking at the rear holders, if you threw a trash bag in there, you could fill that full of ice and beer, and even if you weren't 21, it didn't matter because the cops wouldn't see it in there. There's just everything so right and so 80s about this car. The stereo was one of the like early factory, like attractive looking stereos with the built-in. That's a factory setup right there. The cassette, and you had to put the cassette in sideways so it properly engaged the heads, so it sounded good. You've got a digital clock in there. These things were just so balanced and so wonderful, and they got every bit of 7-8 miles per gallon. But just an absolutely fun car, and to find one with only 50,000 miles, because all of these rotaries absolutely have an expiration date, and it's about 120,000 miles, and there's no one left to rebuild them.
Yeah, that is a big, big factor in all the generations of these cars. Michael Deebs is thinking to bring any money. What do you think?
Oh, that's a good question. I really don't know what it's worth, but I'm just going to read the tea leaves. Our car is sitting at $7,700. It's not enough time to book it. All right. Well, I'm just going to say.
Wait, did you hear that? That means Deeb is cheating. We all pull these numbers out of our butts, but Deeb's like, I'm going to look it up in the thing.
I got to. Yeah. So let me see what RX-7s are worth. I don't know. 18,000.
It's only an hour show. 18,000 bucks. Yeah, I don't know, man. There's some, I don't know. Some of the nerd herd was saying something about they think this thing was repainted or something.
No, there's scratches on this. I'll bring up some of the pictures in there. It was observed early on by the very astute nerd herd that this car is a survivor, and I could not agree more. There's just some old school parking lot and things in your 501s that have scratched the side of the car while you're leaning against it, looking cool as the club closed and the ladies are walking out, and you wanted to know that you had a sports car, kind of a deal. But the pictures are terrible, and they're all taken with an iPhone because you can see in the shadow the iPhone itself. But there are some just very minor scratches on this one. You can see where the blacked out chrome has just succumbed to the southern sun, and actually there's a reflection of somebody in there. So I don't think this car was repainted at all.
There's some mention of some rust on some of the underbody components or whatever. I mean, this is a southern car. It's not quite Florida, but it is in Georgia.
There we go. There is a picture of the guy reflected in the paint holding his iPhone.
Yeah. Wow. What, does he have a shirt? It doesn't look like it. He is not allowed in the local 7-Eleven. All right, I don't know. This is Cars and Bids. This is the right place for it. But you know how it is with Cars and Bids. A lot of times we don't see those late stage bids. If this were BAT and I'm looking at it and it's at $7,000 today, I would think, all right, well, all the bids are going to come in on the second day late, and so I would be somewhere in that $14,000 range. But I'm not seeing it with this one. It is a really cool car, but I'll go 14,007 and send it off to Wade.
Having only known what Mental has told me about the car in the last 5 minutes, I still feel like it has a lot of life left in it. Only 50-something thousand miles. Looks nice.
That's like 200,000 in a winkle.
I mean, I would happily write a check for $14,500 for this car, and I'd learn it, and I'd let Mental drive it at least once or twice, right?
All right, let's see.
All
what
right,
the
I'm putting in
crazy
the bid
mental
right
says.
now, Wade. Here we go. Typing it in. Thank you. I agree. The thing is we're the people that are interested in this car. We're all getting old, and we somebody has space for this one to relive their high school dreams, but it's not as worth as much as it excites me. So I'm actually going to be rather conservative and say, even with that cool adjustable mirror right there, the center things, it's probably going to go for $12,500.
Oh,
Damn it!
wow.
I way overbid on it. Didn't even listen to my own advice. I'm an idiot. I was gonna say like $7,000. I don't know what I'm doing. Apparently, let's move on to another car that I can screw up on. That was terrible. What do you guys think? What do we got bids from the Nerd Herd?
We are running from $9,500 to $14,000. Sahan's in at 11, but we're all us and the herd. We're all in the ballpark on this one.
All right.
The RX-7 was at $7,700 on 8 bids as we're looking at it. It closes in a couple days from now. My question to you before we move on to the next car is the RX-7 on the right platform? Would this car bring more money on BAT, or is this just the right kind of weird and affordable, off the strip sort of car for Doug DeMuro's site?
This is 100%
DeMuro
cars
all the
and
way.
bids.
Yeah.
This is absolutely, this is going to maximize its return on cars and bids. It would get, people would look at it on one of the higher, the more expensive platforms or something, but it's not going to get the respect.
All right, let's move on. We got one more car. What's the last car?
One more car. Yeah,
All right.
on PCAR Market is a 1979 Porsche 930 Turbo that has been modified. So the car has been treated to a slant nose conversion, and the bodywork was done in Las Vegas, of all places. And then after they did the bodywork, they rebuilt the motor from 3.3 to 3.4 liter and gave it twin turbos. So my guess is with twin turbos, this car is probably making close to, if not over, 400 horsepower. It's got some wild wheels, and it's a sunroof delete car. So super neat specification. Absolute cool modded monster. 138,000 miles on the vehicle, but 500 miles on all the rebuilt stuff. And like I said, a lot of the work was done, at least the bodywork and paint were done here there in Las Vegas. The car is in California, I believe. Yeah, it's in Thousand Oaks, private party. Just super neat car. And they do. JP, I'm going to send it to you, but I want to say I feel like they might have done a G50 swap on this, but I might have been another car I looked at. So John, I'll send it to you, and I'll dig deep to see if it's a 4-speed or a 5-speed. But the motor specification seems to be pretty badass. It's got twin intercoolers, 993 RS cams, Garrett T2, T3 ball bearing turbochargers. I mean, this thing is probably, if I was just guessing, I'd say it's probably 450. You know what I mean? Like, this thing probably rips. So, John, I sent it to you. What do you think of this car?
Yeah, a
Pretty
dual
badass.
turbo on this has got to be. I mean, that on a 932 turbos, that's always fun. I love slant noses. I mean, I don't think that it brings extra money. In fact, it's going to hurt the value. But I'm a fan. I think if you're an 80s kid, this is just like, this is the closest thing to a Lamborghini Countach that you're going to get with a Porsche, other than maybe a Gambala version of it or something like that. I mean, you've got the strakes on the side, the cheese graters with the with the rocker. So I just
Box
love
rockers.
it. Box rockers, thank you, and the twists. That's kind of 90s ish, which is kind of part of the era. I mean, this car is just so rad wood. You get a hooker in this car, and you get all the cocaine, and you're in a Tarantino movie in this thing. I love it.
Or an episode of Miami Vice.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this car is just tons and tons of fun. It's got Jan Hammer stuck in the cassette player, and that's all it'll ever play. Would you be seen in this car, Wade? Is this car you get some 80s cred, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Car's fast.
This car is really cool. I think I'd get in a lot of trouble with it.
Pop your collar on that jean jacket. Pop the collar on the jean jacket. You are ready for this car.
Ready, yeah.
There it is with that haircut. Hell yeah.
Take on me.
Wait. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Put the Miami Age glasses on.
All the way.
All right. This is.
Hang on. I've got to get this screen capture just right. So let me get Wade there. Everyone get a
There's
picture of Wade.
All right.
And then we've got
Pop
to do
that
the
collar
picture.
a little better here.
We've got to
Let's
do
see
the
it.
picture just perfect. Bam. That's his new.
Yes, he is the seller, I think. Right there.
I might
one
be
for
the
the
next buyer
gram.
of this car. I don't know.
Trade in that Italian bucket and get this thing, dude.
In fact, that is the car from the movie when they look at a Ferrari and he says Italian trash, and then they turn and say, "I only steal Porsches like this one," and it was a slant nose.
Wade, your rebate's in the glove box.
I was gonna say, I think I can drive it back tomorrow and they'd still take it.
No, that's a 9mm and a half pound of Coke that's in the glove box.
Yeah. With a vanity plate that says trunk money.
Yeah. All right, Mental, what do you get? What do you think of this thing?
Oh my goodness, I do love it. It is fantastic. I am stunned that it was built in Las Vegas and Rami doesn't own it.
Yeah, right. I mean, this definitely with those turbos, it has his name written all over. What do we think this crazy little bastard's going to bring?
Interesting. So our car closes tomorrow, and it's sitting at $47,000. So this could be another case of like, give me two numbers, because it's hard to say if this car is going to make it to 100 grand or not. I feel like the bidding might stop at about $85,000 or $89,000, but I suspect a car like this with this much spec, and the work was all being done, I think just in the last year or two. I think the bodywork was done in Vegas like in 21 or 22, and then the motor was rebuilt earlier this year to this new higher spec, really increasing the performance over the stock 930 motor that it came with, which is not too shabby itself. But JP, I kind of feel like it's 85,000 on the Hammer and 150 in the Chum bucket. So if you guys want to do two numbers, I'm cool with that. If you want to give me one number, it's up to you. But I that's kind of where I'm at on this car.
Yeah, I mean, if it had frog eyes, if it had the normal 911 fenders, this thing is well into the $1.50 range. But unfortunately, the slant nose is really going to hurt it as much as I love it. The 3.4 twin turbo build, you couldn't replicate this car for under $200,000. I think with bodywork and stuff like that, God knows how much money they have in this thing. I think the Chum bucket price is going to be over $200,000. I think this is one of those. If you're delusional enough to have done this project and go slant nose on purpose this late in the stage. I mean, it'd be one thing if it were if this were a slant nose that was done, back in the 90s or something, or in the early aughts. But to say, all right, I've got a 930. Anytime in the last 10 years, I've got this wide body Porsche, I'm going to chop the nose off of it. Are you out of your mind? As cool as it is, unless you're building it for yourself, I think you're just dumb. So yeah, but I'm with you, Deeb. I don't think it breaks 100 anywhere close to it.
JP, I got to tell you, I didn't look at this until Mental was just scrolling through things. Looking at the certificate of authenticity, this car originally was paint to sample. It doesn't say what color it was. The code is 99. I don't know what that is. But originally, this 1979 car was a paint to sample car, and they repainted it white. That, I think, is a fool's errand. That's terrible.
mean, and when, it's like, is there a Carfax on this thing? Because you can kind of like dig through the Carfax sometime.
No. 79, no Carfax.
Oh, gee. Well, I mean, there's still Carfaxes for cars that are 79. There's just usually no records on it up until later. But anyways, this is just more PCAR market BS. Because sometimes you can look at, like, if there were a Carfax on this, you could look at maybe in the mid-aughts or something like that. It was somewhere where where it had an accident or something. I don't know. This car is just. What was your number for your actual number? 89 or something?
85,150 in the Chum bucket.
Yeah, boy, am I going to go over you or under you? I got to go 8911, and what did I say, 225 for the Chum bucket? I think it's over 200 in the Chum bucket.
All right, give me your numbers again, JP. What was your first number?
80,911. I'm sorry, 80,930. Can I do that? Am I allowed to do that? I know it's my show, so I can do whatever the hell I want, but I think that's within. Because I meant 930 because it's the 930.
And 225 in the Chum bucket?
Correct. What do you think, Wade?
I don't know. Those are some big numbers. It is a weird build. It's kind of a weird car. It probably was built by somebody who was weird and had a lot of money and didn't know what to do with it. They got to be reasonable, though. I mean, is this a $200,000 car? I don't think so.
Chum Bucket is not reflective of reality ever.
Yeah.
So be advised.
Yeah. But is it a $100,000 car?
It's a $100,000 motor, and
it's got to be. We've seen PCAR Market bring the numbers. I don't think it'll sell. I think it probably hits 110.
Okay.
I hope they're reasonable in the Chum Bucket. I think 189 for the cars. For right now, they should just take that and run.
Yeah.
And
110, 189?
Yeah, 110 and 189. And hope that whoever buys it is as odd and eccentric as whoever built it. Because it's one person who's going to want this car.
What are your numbers, Mental?
I am going to continue on a theme and say 69 fails to sell and then 169 Chum Bucket, because they took a very valuable thing and made a weird thing out of it, and I don't know that that's going to appeal to a lot of money to a lot of people that want to drop 6 digits on something like this. It's a super cool car, but the having the Porsche certificate of authenticity that tells you that they almost built something terrible out of something really awesome, even though it looks great, and that it's on this platform, I just don't think it's going to pay off at all anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, look, guys, that engine is so sick that if you can buy this, if there is a deal to be had here, this is the kind of car where it would be worth it to put the correct fenders back on, because that would all of a sudden bring the value way back up. Would it be worth it to find out what the original color is and repaint it? Probably not in this market, but maybe, if things turn around here in 6 months or a year, or whenever, this car could definitely has the potential to have some value. It's old 930. 930s with paint to sample are kind of rare. So there is some underlying value there, and that engine, holy crap, that is a powertrain. The Molly pistons and all that stuff. Yeah, dude, I want this car. But I wouldn't pay. Seriously. I just wouldn't pay the big money for it because of those darn. I just love it, but I wouldn't pay big money for it. What do you guys think out there in the comments? We've got
They're all kind of agreeing with us. We're all in the same ballpark. We think it's going to hit high under 6 digits and not sell, and then go for unreasonable 6 digits afterwards, and then. As Anthony said, he wants this car. He's going to bid it to $84,000 himself, and if he gets it, he's going to roll it back to Boise wearing a gold President and a pair of aviators, and he's going to look damn good doing it.
He's going to have to fight Wade over it here. All right, you guys. Yeah, man. I think is anybody out there think that it's going to be over 200 in the Chum Bucket? Am I the only one?
No,
I think I'm the only one.
Everyone, I think the highest we see in the Chum Bucket is 187, and that's from Ross.
Yeah, we want Anthony to definitely buy this car. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out for another live episode of Bid Nerds. Wade from Tech Daily, thanks for hanging out and being a co-host. Anything else you want to plug here going into F1 weekend?
Just that if you're going to the race, enjoy it. Hopefully it stays dry. I'll be there on Friday night to at least see a couple cars go by. But yeah,
very nice.
Race week and race week all week. That's what's here.
Yeah.
Mental over there at Everyone Racers. Speaking
Absolutely.
of racing.
You can catch our hot takes on the Las Vegas Grand Prix tomorrow. Our new episode drops, and I'm going to be sneaking off tomorrow myself to catch some of the practice, and might actually find myself at the race as well. I think I do not agree to the doom and gloom that everyone says is going to happen in the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Watch it on TV. I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, traffic is shitty right now, but it's not that bad. I mean, and they're not closing the whole Las Vegas Boulevard off. There's still the other lane on the side, and they're gonna. Look, this is Vegas. It's
traffic.
We know how to get people in and out of this place.
And you and I were just down there last night. Do you want to tell the good listeners of Bid Nerds why?
We are producing a short film called Desolation Road. So if you were not already a subscriber to the Rami Show YouTube channel, check over there for updates on that that production. We're going to be shooting that film here in just a couple weeks. We've been working on it for years, and we are finally turning the lights on and going to start filming this thing. We had a great read, a very talented cast last night, and this is going to be a lot of fun, a lot of work, but it's going to be a cool production, and we will let you guys know how to see it when the movie is done. And then speaking of, we talk about all these cars and stuff like that. If you have a car and you want to maybe try auctioning it out, you can talk to my partner, Michael Deeb. Tell them how they can do that.
Oh, I don't know. Find me somehow and I'll help you sell your car. We are taking consignments now for Amelia Island. So if you have a really special high dollar, super rare car that you would like to put in the auction at the Ritz-Carlton in Jacksonville, Florida at Amelia Island, we are taking consignments right now. And if you just have a regular car, a regular special interest sports or muscle car that you would like to put on our online auction, I can help you with that as well. Reach out to me. It would be my great honor to help you sell your car and get a full retail value for it. Also, we've had a lot of great engagement over the last few weeks where a lot of the listeners and friends of ours have been picking cars. And I have to say, I'm really peed off because nobody picked any cars this week, meaning I had to go back to doing my job. Feel free to reach out to me or to JP if you have any cool cars you would like us to cover. We will cover anything you pick that's coming up in an online auction. Thank you. Kevin
Bodeman's asking if Rami has a 930.
I've already said there's three that I know of.
3 930s. Plus what? One 993 turbo and a 997 turbo. And how many other snails does that guy have? Yeah, that's the only cab he's got. But yeah, so anyways, that's a good way to end the show. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Hit that subscribe, like, and notification button. Share an episode and comment on auctions on the platforms that you heard about Bid Nerds. Get some people over here to watch the show live on Sunday nights and Wednesday nights, and we will see you Sunday night. Bye.
First rule of Bid Nerds is to talk about Bid Nerds.
Talk about the damn thing. Come on, man.
Get those nerds!